my goodness, we already have everybody joining me. Okay, so I won't be able to see all of your comments. I apologize in advance. I'm gonna have to like look up here to see what your comments are. Rebecca and Joan and Krista, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about pepper and tomato seed starting tips. And I already have some stuff going right now, but I'm also going to talk about the ins and outs. I'm going to talk about what I use. We're going to keep it short and sweet, simple, hopefully super helpful. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I have no coffee. I have no water today. So I'm just going to wing it, and we're going to go and discuss seed starting tips for tomatoes and peppers. Now, these are, the reason I lumped tomatoes and peppers together is they're very similar in how they grow, except that tomatoes usually take a little less time to germinate than peppers. Hot peppers can take up to 30 days depending on which variety you're planting. Hey, Caitlin. Tomatoes are usually 7 to 14 days, so it kind of depends on your growing area. But I want to talk about, before you get started, we're talking about the planting stage. You need to identify, hey, New England Charm, and Inga, thanks for joining me, and Michelle, and Moonblade, thank you. You need to identify the best time to plant. Hey, Jenny as well. I got cats literally everywhere. I've got 3 orange cats. I got a gray striped cat, and everybody's running around, and I'm just gonna hang out in the house. So it's a lot easier to do it in here where I've got my seedlings already going versus in the seed shop where you just have seed behind me. Alter Ego, thanks for joining me as well. So identify the best time to plant. Before you even get started planting your seeds, you need to determine when is your last frost date for your zip code. It does not matter your region. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter your zone. Your USDA zone does not matter when it comes to planting annuals. You need to know when your frost dates are. If you're starting seeds indoors, you're going to want to start seeds indoors anywhere from, it depends, 6 to 8 weeks if you have a longer growing season. Maybe it's 6 to 12 weeks if you have a shorter growing season. I know some of you, you're not planting outside until June, so you're getting a head start indoors. So I have a tiny square. Hey, Petra Trabatry. Hey, Deborah, thanks for joining me. I have a very small square of seedlings or seed starter trays that I started a couple days ago. And I'll share with you that in just a second after I get to the nuts and bolts. Before I get started, in the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll find a link to my new arrivals. You'll find a link to so much awesome information. If you're just getting started, it will be super helpful, I promise you. You can also sign up for my emails in the link provided below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time, and I started going live on Facebook on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Central Time. So if you missed that yesterday, we had a blast. I talked about all kinds of different seeds. I gave away 10% off this, a $10 gift certificate to a customer. So super exciting. All right, so now that we've identified our frost dates for your zip code, mine is, I'm in Ben Wheeler, Texas, which is East Texas. Mine is March 15th. So I'm gonna walk it back 6 weeks, and that is now. Now is the time for me to start seeds indoors if I want to start indoors. And peppers and tomatoes are a good option for indoor seed starting. Things like watermelon, cucumber, cantaloupe, melons, and things like that, those are not good options to indoor seed starting because 1, they don't transplant very well, and 2, they're a vining crop, so they really need more space once they get started. I don't transplant any of those. I direct sow those seeds. And that was a question in my live chat yesterday, was planting watermelon, and could you plant it indoors? And I said, no, it doesn't transplant very well, so you're better off just direct sowing. Now, gather all your tools. And so I have my tools here. I have a permanent marker. I have plant markers. I actually have a couple more over there as well. And then I have my growing medium, and I've got my containers. So in this instance, I am using, for this in particular, this is what my most recent seed starting was. I used a 10 by 10 growing tray. Hey, Laughing Gardens, thanks for joining me. I shared last night in my live chat on Facebook, I shared a brand new starter kit, and that was for tomatoes and peppers. It comes with 2 of these 10 by 10 trays. It comes with 50 coconut coir pellets, which you can plant just about anything in it you want. Ultradico says, do the watermelon seeds need to be soaked before direct sowing? You can, but it is not recommended. So, or I'm sorry, it is not required. Let me backtrack on that one. So you can soak most seeds, but it's not required in this case for watermelon. So the 2 starter kits I shared last night was an heirloom tomato starter box and a sweet pepper starter box. And that included the trays. It included 50 coconut coir pellets. It included seeds. It includes instructions. And then I also shared that if you purchase now through the end of February, so you've got a month and a couple days, I'm going to throw in a pack of it includes the coconut coir pellets. I'm going to include a pack of compost tea. Both starts with a C. The great thing about the compost tea is when your seeds start to pop up, they don't need fertilizer right away. There's a gray cat behind me. They don't need fertilizer right away, and I'll get into that in just a second. But eventually, either when you transplant or if you up pot, using a compost tea is helpful. And if you don't make your own compost tea, this little packet is super handy. So that's a plus. If you're just joining me, welcome. For those of you that join me regularly, welcome back. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So in this tray in particular, this is not the kit that I was discussing. The kit comes with these fun little pellets, and I use this just as a display. You don't want them to dry out like this, but I use this when I go to my different classes and I show people how to use that stuff. In this particular tray, I used a 10 by 10 starter tray, and then I used 6 cell germination trays. And then with that, I also used, all of this is available at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Super easy plant markers. You can actually use yogurt containers and reuse the plastic. Just use the white part of it, the clear part of it, and you can write on it. And a permanent marker. Super easy, super simple. Make sure you mark what you are planting, because most tomatoes look the same. Most peppers look the same when they are this size or when they are teeny tiny seedlings. So you're not really going to be able to determine what it is or which specific variety it is until you're starting to harvest. So you're better off marking what you plant and make sure that you keep those handy. Now what I did to make my life a lot easier is, in the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my journal. It is Mary's Garden Journal. Inga says oil-based markers fade less. Yes, they do. You can also take a permanent marker and use clear nail polish. Some people have it, some people don't. That's always something that works really well. Tammy says I'm labeling every single pellet. Well, perfect. That's awesome. This is what I use, and this is my seeding journal. So this is in Mary's Garden Journal. If you haven't seen it already, it is in the description section of this video. You can purchase it, and if you do purchase the garden journal, you will have access to this as a download. So say you only get 2 pages of this in your journal and maybe you need 6, I'll send it to you so you can download it and print it yourself if 2 is not enough for you. So that is a plus for you, that you can have access to those at a later time. And what I did is, rather than where it says location, I just put indoors, because I literally filled this entire thing up in one day. So I put location, indoors, under lights, and then under the date, I just put the single date that it was. Hey, Broke Farmer, thanks for joining me. And I filled this thing up. I filled up how many seeds I planted. I filled up, obviously I haven't filled out how many sprouted and the germination percentage because we just got started. But I will also include the soil medium, the growing medium that I used. So on that note, when you are seed starting, we're talking about pepper and tomato seed starting tips. So both of them are kind of interchangeable because they both require a very similar growing habitat and medium and attention. Gather all your tools. So I have my tray. You can reuse stuff. You can reuse yogurt containers. I've got a lot of information on my website that I've actually shared before. Previous Facebook videos, YouTube videos as well, where I shared reusable containers. But for this in particular, I'm using a tray and 6-cell germination trays. So I got that. Then I have my growing medium. For the growing medium, I use coconut coir. I use straight coconut coir. We have this available at Mary's Heirloom Seeds in 3 different sizes. This, Krista says, how do you store extra coconut coir you don't use? Can it get contaminated in an open bucket? That's a great question. And I'll share that in just a second. This is the small brick. And I have a video where I shared the 3 different bricks that I share. This is the small one. I have another one that's on what's called a bulk, and I have another one that's a massive 9-pound brick. It's gigantic. So what I have done for my excess coconut coir is I either mix it up in a bucket to go outside, or I will put it in a container that doesn't have an airtight lid. I don't want this to go funky with whatever that might be in the water that might grow. Yes, if you leave it out like this, it can grow mold on it, depending on, because you have natural spores wherever you are. So what I've done in the past is I've taken any excess coconut coir and I've mixed it with something else, whether it's compost or whether it's garden soil, and I've used it in another process. Literally, even if it's just sitting it in a bucket outside or on a covered patio with other things mixed into it, like I mentioned, coconut coir with perlite and with compost. And that way I'm ready to plant in a container or a grow bag at a later time. So yes, I generally store it mixed or somewhat covered, but not airtight. So just to throw that out there at you. And I'm going to discuss my mix in just a second. So once I got all my stuff gathered, now I'm ready to get going. Seeds need warmth. Seedlings need light, but seeds don't need light. So I'm going to throw that out there just to add a little level of difficulty for you there. You want to start with a clean mix. I got cats everywhere. So you want to start with a clean mix, like I mentioned. You can use coconut coir by itself. You can use a mix of coconut coir and perlite. Some people use peat moss. Some people use peat moss and perlite. So it's totally up to you how you like to start. I don't like using peat moss because it is not as eco-friendly. It is dredged from peat bogs that take hundreds of years potentially to rebuild. So coconut coir is actually a trash product. As silly as that sounds, coconut coir is a byproduct of the coconut industry. So if you use coconut oil, you use coconut cream, you use coconut water, you use coconut milk, the excess is the trash basically that would end up in the landfill is the outer husk of a coconut coir. And that's what this coconut coir is. So this is a recycled, reused product that I really like, that I can use something a lot more sustainable in my garden. So coconut coir is my base. Sometimes I use coconut coir and perlite for seed starting. I don't use compost when I start seeds indoors. And I don't really do it unless I'm direct sowing. I don't use compost because you don't want to introduce new fungus potentially, or any kind of outside influences, whether it's bugs or a fungus or something that might be in your compost that hasn't fully broken down. I don't want that to affect my seed germination. So that's why I use something a lot more sterile, which would be coconut coir or a coconut coir and perlite mix. If you want to add perlite to your mix, and maybe you're thinking about buying coconut coir from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, reach out to me. I can always include perlite for a very small amount. This is a massive bag. I mean, it's a gallon bag. And this This small brick more than fills up this container. And I don't even know how big this container is. I can let you know at a later time. I don't have a quantity on this one. So start with something simple and start with something clean. You want a clean mix for your seed starting. So once I get started with my seeds, they need warmth to germinate and they need light once they start popping up. So that's an important thing to add, and make sure that you are prepared. You've gathered all your tools. When you start these seeds, when I start to take these germination trays and I start to collect my coconut coir, put it in here, I want the coconut coir and the mix to be moist but not waterlogged. And I've said that so many times. In general, for seed starting and for container gardening and for your garden in general, you should have a moist base without being waterlogged. Super important there, because too much water can cause your seeds to deteriorate and possibly rot in the soil. So you definitely don't need that. That's one of the common reasons why seeds don't germinate, is because it's too waterlogged. The second one is not enough water. Soil needs to be light and fluffy, and that's why I like coconut coir as well. And this is going to be the same information for both tomatoes and peppers. It doesn't matter one or the other. The biggest difference from what I have seen in growing tomatoes and peppers indoors before you plant outside is the timing in germination. And let me show you an example. Today is Thursday. Thursday the 30th. I started these seeds on Sunday night. I put a couple of these in here because I wanted to have it ready for Thursday, and I thought, well, I'm really late, but I might as well just try it anyway to see what happens. My tomatoes have, where is it? My tomatoes, some of them have already germinated. My peppers have not. Like I said, peppers usually take 14 to 21 days to germinate. Tomatoes are usually 7 to 14 days. I'm going to show you real quick. See those little babies? They're just now starting to pop up. And that is Aunt Ruby. So when I plant my seeds, I generally plant 1 or 2 per cell. I don't plant any more than that. It's just easier if you do 1 or 2 per cell. And it's sad because sometimes you have to pull one out or pinch one off and you only plant 1, or you can try and separate them. If you try and separate them, you have to do that very early on. Label your containers, as you can see. Let me show you again. Try not to, it's not super waterlogged, so you don't have to worry about it. Look. And again, it's backwards because it's YouTube, and YouTube's normally backwards anyway. You can see I have labeled my containers. Very, very important, because I don't want to get to a situation where I'm looking at it going, I know that's a tomato, but I don't know what type of tomato it is. Inga says, can you use coconut coir for soil blocking? Or do you have to use trays? So coconut coir doesn't hold its form. So I know that for soil blocking, there's a certain mix that you use. And so you'll have to look that up. I don't use soil blocking currently because it's just not something that I've done so far. But I know there's a mix that you can use. You can use coconut coir in your mix, but it doesn't hold a square like the soil blocking that I've seen. So just something to consider. And now that I've got water all over my seed packs, I'm going to be planting these ones tonight. So again, just as a reminder, take your seed pack and use a label. You always want to make sure you label your containers. You can also use a grid. If you have a larger planting container, and maybe you have 72 cells, and maybe you want to plant like one whole row and you want to use it that way. If you take a grid, you can mark that off on a grid, and then you don't necessarily have to have these little containers or little labels. I like it this way because I want to do these in, I have a lot of different varieties that I'm going to be growing. So I'm going to be growing them in phases. This is one of many that I have already under lights and under a heat or I should say on top of, a heat mat. So like I said, your seeds need heat, your seedlings need light. Hey, Arlisha, thanks for joining me. Don't plant your seeds too deep. So for both tomatoes and peppers, you want 1/4 of an inch. So you can do it 2 ways. You can either take this cell, same thing as here. You can either take the cell and you can fill it all the way up, and then you can make a hole. You can use a pencil, you can use a stick, you can use a skewer. I've actually used a skewer before and it works really, really well, because I don't really use pencils. I use pens for the most part. So you can actually fill these cells up completely and then make a little hole with your stick, whatever you use, plant your seed, and then push the soil or growing medium over it. Or you can not fill them all the way up. You can fill them about 3/4 of the way up, and then you can take a small handful of your growing medium and you can put it on top of it. Totally up to you. You can make a hole or you can top it off. Tammy says a toothpick, perfect. A chopstick. I love using chopsticks. Absolutely. I actually bought a pack of skewers specifically to plant seeds one year because I thought, well, you know, why not? They're double duty. I can use the skewers at a later time. If whatever I don't use for my garden, I could use it to make food. So that worked as well. But super important that you don't plant too deep. So when people ask me about germination issues that they might have, what can cause this or that to happen, there's too much water, not enough water, burying it too deep, because that seed only has so much energy to pop up through that soil, so you don't want to plant it too deep. And if you look at my seed starting instructions that come with your order, it is 2 to 3 times the diameter of the seed is how deep you're supposed to plant it. So for these tiny little seeds, you don't want to bury them too deep. If it's a big seed like a bean or a squash, you can plant those 1 inch deep, no problem. But for tomatoes and peppers, you want 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch deep, no deeper. And as I mentioned earlier, 1 to 2 seeds per cell, and that's it. You don't want to overdo it. I've seen some recommendations where it's like 3 or 4 per cell, and then, hey Christian, thanks for joining me. And then it says, pinch off the ones that aren't very good, but that just seems like a waste of seeds to me, because hi Danny, if you had only planted 1 or 2 seeds per cell, they may be very strong and you wouldn't necessarily have to remove those seeds. So I'm not a big fan of wasting seeds. I like to plant actually 1 per cell, and you saw 2 in my Aunt Ruby's. But in my Hillbilly Flame here, see if I can do this real quick with a paper towel so I'm not dripping it everywhere. Where is it? There it is. There's only 1. In my Hillbilly Flame, I only planted 1, and this is only 3 days. Is it 3 days? 3.5 days, maybe 4. So that's pretty spectacular germination if I'm already having seeds germinate in 4 days versus it's generally 7 to 14 days. Hey guys, yes, Christian, earlier I mentioned the coconut coir pellets. And I also mentioned that on Facebook, I'm going live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And I actually shared 2 new kits that we have at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. One is an heirloom tomato starter kit, and one is an heirloom sweet pepper starter kit. And I have it in front of me, like way over there, but it's not right in front of me. Maybe I can have my awesome helper hand it to me while I'm going live tonight. So we shared the different options for seed starting. Karen says, you're stingy with your seeds. Listen, I have unlimited amounts of seeds and I still don't like to waste seeds. All right, so Christian asked if I ever use the biodegradable pods, and yes, I do. So this is an example of my brand new sweet pepper seed starter box. You can find these in the starter kits portion on my website. Tammy says I used biodegradable pots before and they never did. I missed part of that. So I love these. but they dry out a little more faster than some of the other options that I've tried, which is why I love this tray. It helps. You always want to have a tray underneath these, and they do really well. The cool thing about the starter pods is, Tammy, one thing you might want to consider is a lot of people use the peat moss pellets. I do not like those. They are more acidic because it's peat moss, and the outside is generally a plastic netting. Coconut coir pellets have a non-woven biodegradable netting that is not plastic. These are plant-based, and so they will break down faster than the plastic netting on the peat. So that is one thing where they completely are different from the peat. Tammy says they were peat pots, not pods. Okay, yes, with that, I totally agree with you. I despise peat pots. They don't break down at all. In the past, I have used them and I've literally had to peel the outside off to plant them because there's no way that those roots are going through them. With the coconut coir pellets, the actual non-woven outer container, I guess, these roots just shoot right through and you can see them. I've actually accidentally left them for too long and I had a more than an inch long root coming out of one of these pods. So peat pods are different than peat pellets and absolutely completely different than the coconut coir pellets that we offer. So just throwing that out there. Yes, and these are biodegradable. So this is the sweet pepper starter box that I mentioned. I mentioned on Facebook, in case you missed it yesterday during my live chat, that if you purchase this from now through the end of February, so you've got a month. I'm also going to throw in a pack of mountain flower compost tea. This includes red cherry sweet pepper, purple beauty bell pepper, Melrose sweet pepper, Jimmy Nardello pepper, and fushimi sweet pepper. That's 50 coconut coir pellets, 2 of these 10 by 10 trays. And what if you don't want to plant 50 peppers? Fine. Use them from your tomatoes. Totally fine. All of those seed varieties that I mentioned are sweet peppers, so you don't have to worry about anything being spicy. I have a ton of mild peppers on my website. Anaheim, Ancho Poblano. If you want a complete list, send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com and I will answer. Hey, 3 Little Sprouts Homestead, thanks for joining me. Or you can go to marysheirloomseeds.com. You can go to the peppers page and then you can click mild peppers and it will narrow it down to just the mild peppers for you. Now, last but certainly not least, I'm going to finish this chat off tonight with the last tidbit here. If you are starting seeds indoors, definitely use a fan. Hey, look, I got another cat behind me. If you circulate the air, you have less risk of mold developing on your seed starter soil mix. You have less chance of damping off, which is a soil-borne issue that you will have if you are growing indoors. And you will have stronger stems. The gentle fan. You don't want a hard blast. You don't want a big, like, heavy-duty fan on. You want a light fan. If you have a light fan, you will be slowly toughening up the stems of your seedlings to have a more healthy seedling so that when you transplant it outside, it will be healthy. So I definitely recommend adding a small fan. Krista says, I'm testing a pack of Melrose peppers from 2020 that a friend sent me when you first moved to Texas and you found them inside a card you sent. You put 4 seeds in toilet paper to see if they'll root. That is an excellent way to start your seeds if you are testing germination. I've shared that information on a couple of my videos. When someone actually asked me this weekend, I spoke at Bob Wells Nursery at Sorelli Farms in Mineola, Texas, and they asked me to talk about seed saving because Saturday was National Seed Swap Day. And a lady said, how old is too old? At what point should we start throwing them away? And she followed it up, and it made me really sad. She followed it up by saying, I just threw away a bunch of my old seeds. And I thought, that's sad that she threw away the seeds. And I explained to her that you can do your own seed testing for Krista. Thank you. I looked at her and I said, I'm really sorry, but never throw away seeds. Yes, I sell seeds and that's what I do, but I'm never going to tell you to throw away seeds. You want to test the germination. Even after 5 years, you may have a lower germination rate to some of your seeds, but you should still have enough viability to plant. So I never throw away seeds. I have got a huge seed stock, and I'll never share with anybody how much seeds I have. I have a funny little meme that says a lady never talks about her seed stash, but yes, I don't throw away seeds. You should explain the story about the 1,500-year-old cave bean. Yes. So Inga says, share the story about that 15-year-old cave bean. That was literally found in a cave that was 1,500 years old. They carbon dated the actual original seed stock. Now, the seeds that I sell from 15-year-old cave bean seeds are not 1,500 years old, but they are from a stock of seeds that was found in a cave that was 15 years old and dated. They grew them, saved those seeds, and now I'm able to offer them for Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Tracy says, did I miss the ground cherry tomatillo talk? Nope. All of this information is relevant to tomatillo. So anything I discussed with you today about tomatoes and peppers is relevant to tomatillos as well. Tomatillos and ground cherries are very similar in growing habitat. One is a little sweeter, one is used for salsa, but they are interchangeable when it comes to the growing, just like tomatoes and peppers. They do take a little longer to grow than tomatoes from seed. As far as germination is concerned, they take a lot of patience. Most of my customers report that it took forever for their seeds to germinate, but once they germinated, they just took off. So have patience. Definitely super important to have patience. So tomatillos take anywhere from 14 to 30 days to germinate. And if you have trouble germinating your seeds, I highly recommend the paper towel method. I actually sent a lady a pack of seeds and said, before you do anything, because she had trouble the previous year, I said, before you do anything, use the paper towel method with these seeds. And she was floored that she had 100% germination with what she used in the paper towel versus the year before where she was really struggling. And she said, Mary, what do I do and what am I doing wrong? And I said, well, they're tricky. It takes a little more patience than some of the varieties that we grow. So, all right. It has been a rough week for us here at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. If you watched my video last night, I was indoors because Doc had some dental surgery and I was just hanging out with him, just checking him out, making sure he didn't need anything. And it has been a little bit of a rough day today as well. So I am super fortunate to be able to go live inside and not have to be out and about and doing all this stuff. And you've seen a couple of my cats live tonight where you wouldn't normally see them in the seed shop. So there's that as well. If you have any questions, you can always send an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. I do ask that you have patience with me. It is the busiest time of year right now. It means working in the seed shop sometimes 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., depending on the day. So it is a long day for me. It is not an easy thing to get everybody's seed orders out. It's cold here. It's warming up, but we did have about 4 inches of rain today. So we kind of needed a boat to get to and from wherever we were going today. So just keep that in mind. It is January 30th, 2025. If you're watching the replay, it is the busiest time of the year. It is what I call the spring rush. It is when everyone decides they want to buy their seeds and rush to get them ready for spring. So place your orders now. Don't wait. If you've got questions, send an email. Just have a little patience and give me a day or two to respond. If I don't respond in 24 hours, just wait till 48 hours. Give me a little bit more time and we'll definitely get back to you. My email again is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do actually answer your emails. If you don't place orders online, you can always give me a call. Say, hey, Mary, call me back. I want to place an order, and I will definitely help you. Check out the awesomeness that is my comprehensive planting guide. And I'm headed for dinner. Thanks for joining, everybody. I appreciate it. Heads up, I will not be live next Thursday. I have some important stuff to handle, but I will be in touch. So I will not be live next Thursday or Friday for my regular time, but stay tuned because I will have some random pop-ups just to keep you guys on your toes, right? All right, everybody. I'm Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, signing off, and happy planting.